Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have two heated rivals face off for the lands of the Empire. We have, of course, the Empire, and we have the dreaded Vampire Counts facing off one another. I am leading the Vampire Counts, and Ronin is leading the forces of the Empire. So for the Empire, we have Karl Franz leading the way with the Reichling Runefang and Gal Maraz. Also for the leadership department, we have a warrior priest with Soulfire, Grand Shield of, or the Shield of Faith, and Hammer of Sigmar. We also have a Jade Wizard with Earthblood, Regrowth, and Blast as well. For the rest of the forces, we have a front line of swordsmen across the line. We have a couple units of Reiksguard. We have an Empire Knights unit in the back, and then we also have some spearmen with shields as well as kind of the secondary line. And we have a skirmishing force of 3 Pistoliers, and that will wrap up the forces of the Empire. And now for the Vampire Counts, we have Manfred von Karstein in the skies, and he is, of course, bringing Spirit Leech, Raise Dead, and Invocation of Nehek. We also have, for the leadership department on the Count side, we have 2 White Kings in the forest right now, both on horseback with Scabscraith, as they are now flanked by 2 units of Blood Knights. As for the rest of the army, we have a front line of zombies, 5 of them going off into the sunset, and then for the backup is a unit of Graveguard, 3 of those, one of those being the Sternsmen. And of course we have 1 unit of Skeleton Spearmen and 2 Fellbats up in the sky as well. So let's get this show on the road. This is part of the ECL tournament hosted by Turin. So initially, Manfred's getting a little too aggressive, I suppose what he says. Pistoliers, especially 3 of them, do a fair amount of damage, as the volleys do quite a bit, a lot more than I was expecting for sure, and I'm forced to pop an Invocation of Nehek here to kind of heal up. So that was quite a misplay on my end. But yeah, I was definitely not expecting the Pistoliers to do that much. Now the Black Knights, the Blood Knights are pushing up. The Blood Knights do have a nice missile resist when they are getting shot from the front. But now the Reiksguard and Empire Knights are kind of responding with a kind of counter charge. They only catch a couple units, but they do kind of get a little stuck up, the Blood Knights, but they do pull out right away as a nice Scabscraith goes down, roasting a bunch of the swordsmen, doing quite a bit of damage. I mean, it doesn't take out any models, but it takes out like essentially 2/3 of their health. And a summon of zombies going down to kind of muck up the advance of the Empire Cavalry, as the rest of the Blood Knights and White Kings do push forward. And now the Warrior Priest and Karl Franz himself are kind of pushed forward without any support. The White Kings do not respond quite quickly enough, as the Warrior Priest will be able to get back into his own formation. But Manfred does jump down onto the engagement. But Karl Franz does get Shield of Faith and the Hammer of Sigmar that the Warrior Priest pops, and the Warrior Priest also gets a nice Soulfire down into the middle of these units. So now we have a bit of a blob fight going on here, as kind of the Blood Knights are not going to be trying to pull out, as Karl Franz has kind of pushed back onto the other side. But yeah, Manfred's not going to want to be sticking around too long, because we have Karl Franz now has Gal Maraz and the Reichling Runefang prop, so he's getting a very nice buff and doing quite a bit of damage to Manfred. That was 1 hit, did quite a bit. So he's going to want to be pulling out of here pretty quick. 1 Blood Knight has taken quite a bit of damage, down to 25 models out of the 45, but the 2 White Kings are still going strong. These Reiksguard have taken quite a bit of damage in return, but in terms of trade-off between them and the Blood Knights, there's a very good trade-off indeed. But these Reiksguard are continuing to take damage and are just about to rout. The White Kings themselves are kind of push through to kind of screen out Karl and the Warrior Priest to allow Manfred to get out through the back. All the while, these Pistoliers are kind of just shooting into the units of the Vampire Counts, getting quite just nice steady DPS in. as we have one of the swordsmen now getting charged by the Blood Knights, who have an invocation pock on them, so they're now getting a nice little bit of healing involved, as the White King, one of the White Kings at least, is taking a bit of damage from Karl Franz, but a nice juicy breath attack coming down from the top, as a regrowth is then going to be cast from the tree line of the Jade Wizard, currently hidden to the Vampire Counts. So Karl Franz is going to be a nice 1400 amount of hit points returned to him, as Manfred does dive into the spears here to kind of avoid facing Karl Franz up in the air. Karl Franz is going to be able to trade exceptionally well into Manfred, especially when he is kind of surrounded by a bit of spearmen. But the Warrior Priest is also kind of caught out, as the two White Kings are just wailing on him, and an attack going down on Manfred on Karl Franz. Blast spell coming through. It is clipping him just as he takes off, and at this point, Vampire Counts are able to see the Jade Wizard, and Pistoliers are continuing to fire in, as Manfred is going to try and escape, as more of the cavalry forces of the Empire are starting to rout, and the Graveguard are holding very well. I suppose we also have that tip as well for one of the zombie units. But yeah, the Pistoliers are continuing to pepper into Manfred, who is very, very close to his healing cap, and Karl Franz as well is very close to catching him indeed, and he does is a little quicker, as the White Kings are tracking the Jade Wizard in the tree line, trying to get rid of the heals for Karl Franz. But yeah, currently Karl Franz has stuck a nice Scab's Wraith goes down, cutting right through a couple units of the Empire, one of them being the Swordsman. But now, yes, we have Manfred stuck on the ground with Karl Franz, trying to get a summon down to kind of screen him out as he kind of leaps forward, able to get a little bit of distance between him and Karl Franz. Let's see if he'll be able to get out, as the kind of the left flank of the Vampire Counts are starting to push through, able to break this unit of spearmen, and are now engaging in the Empire Knights. So they are going to be quickly able to rout them, and now there's not a whole lot left in terms of the infantry department, though Manfred is getting very low. He is crumbling, he is getting up into the sky, and we'll see if he's able to get any kind of stabilization, but he does not, and he does plummet to the ground. So now Manfred is down, and Karl Franz is still at full health. Pistoliers are able to kind of push through this kind of gap in the formation, able to kind of turn and start firing into the kind of mass of the Vampire Counts infantry, but we still have a very healthy Blood Knight unit and two White Kings who were able to chase off the Jade Wizard, able to now shut down the healing for the Empire, as they get a nice rear charge into the back of these spearmen, as the Blood Knights make sure that all of these reinforcements for the Empire are not going to be able to make it. And a nice soul fire going down, kind of in the midst of the skeleton spearmen and one unit of Graveguard, as the Pistoliers continue to kite away and get some nice shots in, as now the Blood Knights are going to try and screen them out from the rest of the infantry, kind of keep them from getting in. But now the White Kings are trying to goon out this Warrior Priest, get rid of those get rid of the buffs, I suppose, that he presents for the Empire troops, and they are doing very good work. The two White Kings themselves, they do fairly well, especially when gooning together against other lords. Not so much Karl Franz, but especially Warrior Priests, as you can see with the Jade Wizard together, they do very good work. But now, yeah, the infantry is really crumping through the last of the Empire troops. These Empire Knights trying to hold back the tide, as the Warrior Priest and Karl Franz pulls out. Karl Franz kind of drops back in, getting some nice attacks in on the Blood Knights. And if you kind of swing out a little bit, you see that the Blood Knights have completely screened out these other three units of Pistoliers, and with their missile resist, they're able to kind of tank those shots pretty well. They are taking damage, and they are going to be crumbling. But my thought there was pretty much just to waste as much ammo as I possibly could by pushing those Pistoliers away, isolate them from the rest of the Empire forces. So the White King is now able to completely get rid of this Warrior Priest. He is very, very low. I'm very sure he will be shattering any second now, with another attack or two from the White King. And now Karl Franz kind of stands alone amongst the troops of the Vampire Counts. And we have the Blood Knights, of course, are going to be kind of coming in for a nice charge into Karl Franz, as the White King did take out the Warrior Priest completely, as they kind of push through, as Karl Franz gets a nice little leap right before those Blood Knights were able to get a nice circle in. But we do get a nice surround off on Karl Franz right here, with all of these troops here, and I'm trying to again screen out these Pistoliers with these spearmen, try and slow down, keep Karl Franz isolated as much as possible. The White King doing a fair amount of work. And now the Blood Knights are again going to try and push these Pistoliers out of the fields, as now the second White King is now going to be returning to the field. Though this White King here is taking quite a bit of attacks from Karl Franz here. With Galmaral's pop, he's getting a nice bonus versus large, which he is on horseback, so he's going to be getting a nice amount of damage on the White King, as well, of course, with the armor-piercing damage. So the White Kings are going to, for now, pull out and let the Grave Guard, which are very formidable Vampire Counts troops, do much of the work. As now the Blood Knights as well are trying to tie up as many of the other units as possible, wasting as much ammo from these Pistoliers as they are able to completely shatter. And Scab's really trying to clip these Pistoliers as they were bunched up, but they were able to pull away just in time. And now the White Kings are both on top of Karl Franz, with the Blood Knights are coming in to support a nice charge in the rear as the rest of the infantry collapse on top of them. So now Karl Franz is going to want to try and get away here. But now the White Kings are now pushing up into these Pistoliers, again pushing them away, keeping Karl Franz isolated as much as possible, as the Blood Knights are able to rout him off the field and try and keep him on the ground. But he is going to be able to take flight, and he is going to be able to get away. And now the Pistoliers are just firing away. They don't have a whole lot of ammo left. One unit is out, and the other one's, I mean, that's a respectable amount of ammo. If we take a quick look, so we have 3 on this one, and just a couple on that one. So it is pretty low, but it is going to be quite enough to do quite a bit of extra damage, as Karl Franz himself has returned after a quick little rout, as the Blood Knights get a nice little charge in on these Pistoliers, but are they getting a quick surround from the other unit Pistoliers, as a few more shots rain in from these units, and Karl Franz now jumps in as well, pretty much immediately starting to crumble these units of Blood Knights. And the White Kings are trying to get some damage off him, and they are doing some very good work. Karl Franz is getting very, very low. I mean, he is only at 500 health, give or take, and the rest of the infantry are slowly starting to catch up, as we have, and I think it is all Grave Guard now, so it is 3 units of Grave Guard, one, of course, being the Sternsmen, so they are going to continue to even heal up at this point. But the 2 White Kings now are very, very low, as Karl Franz is returning the damage that they have dealt onto him. And now these Grave Guard units are trying to push back as much as they can, get a nice surround off on Karl Franz. It's very, very low, and as soon as Karl Franz goes, that is probably going to be it for the rest of the Empire forces. But this surround, these Pistoliers are still just firing right off from the back, starting to crumble these Grave Guard, but Karl Franz himself is wavering, almost about to rout, as they get a nice rear charge off from these Pistoliers. Not the best combat stats, but any charge in from the is going to do as much damage as they possibly can. But Karl Franz does shatter, and army losses will take the rest of the Empire forces, and that, ladies and gentlemen, will be our game. So if we take a quick look at the after report, the Blood Knights doing a lot of good work, getting a couple of chevrons on this unit with 200 kills. Very, very good use out of them, and 97 on the other. Felbaz really weren't doing a whole lot, but again, the Grave Guard, these were kind of the unsung heroes of the Counts build, as they were just able to kind of last through anything that the Empire was able to kind of throw at it. Manfred, he was able to get most of his summons off, but against Karl Franz, doing 172 kills himself, very much a threat in the game as well, being able to do quite a bit of damage to both of the White Kings. Even both of them together aren't able to really do enough of a dent. I mean, if they're surrounded by their own troops, some zombie summons, other Grave Guard, they'll do fairly well against Karl Franz, but in a vacuum, even 2 White Kings against Karl are not going to be able to take him down. These White Kings are mainly for seeing Volkmar in this matchup, but otherwise, yeah, I mean, generally that's something that you're going to see on the Empire side, is you're going to see Volkmar and you're going to see Flagellants, and the Scabscraith are going to do very well against kind of those low armored infantry in a gunnery mobs, which is an interesting thing that we didn't see here. We didn't see any ranged units in the terms of like handgun units or the silver bullets, but otherwise it was a very close game. Almost threw it away at the end with the 2 White Kings engaged with Karl Franz. But anyways, it was a very, very fun match. Had a blast playing with Ronin, and yeah, again, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good one.